The Last Tenant of Room 6 Part 2. What was inside the wall? 3 days after the phone call from Room 6, the new guest checked out without finishing his stay. He didn't scream. He didn't make a scene. He simply walked to the reception desk at 6:12 a.m., placed his keycard down and said, "There's something wrong with your walls." Then he left. He refused to explain further. That same afternoon, a maintenance worker named Caleb Morris was assigned to inspect Room 6. What he found was not paranormal. It was worse. Behind the newly painted drywall near the wardrobe, there was a hollow section that hadn't been sealed properly during renovation. The paint was still fresh, but when Caleb tapped on the surface, it sounded different. Not solid, not structural, just empty. He cut into it, and what fell out onto the carpet changed everything. Inside the cavity were 3 items: a broken cell phone, a rusted key, and a small plastic evidence bag, empty, with a police case number partially scratched off. The phone was old, but intact. When investigators powered it on, they discovered it belonged to someone reported missing 11 months earlier, a man named Thomas Reed. Thomas Reed had vanished from a nearby county. His case was cold. He had last been seen checking into a roadside motel during a solo road trip. Security footage from that motel had malfunctioned the same night he disappeared. At the time, authorities ruled it voluntary disappearance. But now there was a connection, because Thomas Reed's final known phone signal pinged within a 1-mile radius of Sunrise Lodge, Room 6. Detectives began digging. What they uncovered was not one strange case. It was a pattern. Across 3 states, over a span of 6 years, 5 unsolved disappearances shared similar elements. Victims stayed alone in roadside motels, no signs of forced entry, personal belongings left behind, and in 2 cases, deep scratch marks found inside confined spaces. The scratch marks were consistent, 4 lines, repeated, always from the inside. Investigators initially believed these were panic scratches, victims trapped inside something. But there were no hidden rooms discovered at those locations, no secret tunnels, no evidence of abduction rings, nothing concrete, just absence. The FBI briefly reviewed the files but categorized them as unrelated missing adult cases. But Sunrise Lodge reopened the investigation because this time there was physical linkage. The broken phone behind the wall had been manually dismantled, its SIM card removed, the battery wrapped in plastic. Whoever placed it inside the wall didn't want it found easily, but they also didn't destroy it completely, which suggested something intentional, a message. Fingerprint analysis from Room 6 was run again, this time through expanded databases. 1 partial match returned, not to Adrian Wells, but to a man arrested 9 years earlier under a different name, Michael Langford. Michael Langford had been questioned in connection with a missing persons case in Nevada. He was never charged. Insufficient evidence. But the similarity was enough for investigators to dig deeper. They discovered something chilling. Michael Langford had worked temporary maintenance jobs at multiple roadside motels across the country, including one located just 40 miles from where Thomas Reed disappeared. He had access to rooms, access to master keys, access to walls. But here's where the case twisted. Michael Langford officially died in a car accident 7 years earlier. Death certificate confirmed, closed casket funeral, no autopsy complications, which meant one of 2 things. Either the records were falsified, or someone else was using his identity. Remember the footage from 2:41 a.m.? The one where Room 6's door opened and closed, without anyone visible entering the hallway? Investigators enhanced it frame by frame. And what they found was subtle. The door did open, but it didn't open wide. It opened just enough, as if someone inside pulled it slightly, then paused, then shut it. But thermal imaging from a neighbouring security camera showed something else. A temperature shift in the corridor, a brief drop of 3 degrees Celsius, lasting exactly 14 seconds. Experts dismissed it as HVAC fluctuation, but the maintenance logs showed no system activity at that hour. The unidentified body found 300 miles away, the one with scratch marks inside the metal door, was exhumed for re-examination. Forensic analysis revealed something unexpected. The scratches inside the door were not defensive. They were rhythmic, even deliberate, as if someone inside wasn't trying to escape, but marking time. And then came the final discovery. Under the victim's fingernails were microscopic drywall particles, not from the storage unit, from a different structure. The compound matched the brand used in Sunrise Lodge renovations 2 years prior. Now the investigation had shifted. This wasn't a haunting, this wasn't mass hysteria, this was potentially a travelling predator, someone who used false identities, stayed long enough to observe, possibly lured victims, and removed evidence with calculated precision. But something still didn't make sense, because none of the surveillance footage across all linked locations ever showed victims leaving with another person. They vanished from inside locked rooms, and in multiple cases, mirrors had been repositioned before disappearance. A forensic psychologist named Dr. Evelyn Carter was brought in. She reviewed photos of room 6, every version of it, before renovation, after repainting, before and after each disappearance. Her observation was unusual. In every documented case, mirrors were either turned away or covered. She proposed a theory, not supernatural, behavioral. Some offenders experience dissociation when committing crimes. They avoid reflective surfaces to prevent self-recognition during the act. If Michael Langford, or whoever was using his identity, suffered such dissociation, the mirror positioning might have been self-protective. But then she added something else. In rare cases, she said, offenders project blame outward. They claim something else is responsible. Like Adrian whispering, it pretends. The final twist. 6 months into the reopened investigation, Ethan Brooks, the former receptionist, was called back for questioning. Detectives discovered something odd. Ethan had worked the front desk on every night a complaint was filed about room 6, every single one. He claimed it was coincidence, he was simply the night shift employee. But phone records showed something troubling. On the night of Adrian's disappearance, Ethan's phone placed a call at 2:38 a.m. to an unregistered prepaid number, 3 minutes before the screaming started. That number pinged once, from a cell tower near the abandoned storage facility where the unidentified body was found. The case exploded internally. Was Ethan collaborating with someone, or was he the architect? When police searched Ethan's apartment, they found nothing overtly criminal. But inside his closet, hidden behind old jackets, were 4 narrow wooden panels, each marked with deep, parallel scratch lines, identical to those in room 6. When questioned, Ethan insisted he was being framed. He claimed the scratches were replicas, art projects. He said he had recreated them because he was obsessed with understanding what happened. But then investigators uncovered one final detail. Ethan's birth name. It wasn't Ethan Brooks. It was Ethan Langford, Michael Langford's younger brother. Before charges could be filed, Ethan disappeared. His apartment left unlocked, his phone abandoned on the kitchen table. On his bedroom mirror, written in condensation from the shower steam, "It knows when you leave." To this day, no body has been recovered, no conviction secured. Sunrise Lodge was demolished 2 years later. Room 6 no longer exists. But here's the part investigators never solved. 2 weeks after demolition, a new roadside motel 200 miles north reported a complaint. A guest said someone knocked 3 times at exactly 1:17 a.m. When she opened the door, no one was there. When she turned back toward her bed, the mirror was facing the wall, and that leaves the final question. Was room 6 the source, or was it just one stop for something that travels